I am Christian Camilleri from Cameroon. I am currently reading an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. This will be my final academic year, and my final year project would focus on the analysis of an electron beam machine.
I'm Christine Borch from Mosta. I am currently reading for a degree in mechanical engineering, and this is my last year of study. My final project will be focusing on metal-on-metal treatments on hip joint prostheses in order to improve their wear properties.
Our interest to apply and eventually participate in robot wars was mainly triggered after watching similar events which are held locally and also watching programs on the television.
We got to know each other during sixth form, and since then we have worked on various projects and assignments together. We also share the same group of friends, so apart from having a good working relationship together, we also share a very strong friendship.
Besides, such event helped us to involve ourselves more in the IEEE, our student branch, and also in obtaining a hands-on experience in building a robot.
Unfortunately, our budget was very limited since all the fundings had to come from our personal money, since we were not sponsored. In this way, we had to look for our components in scrapyards and for second-hand parts in order to reduce the total cost of the robot.
Ares, who according to Greek mythology was the god of war, is the name Team Ares selected for their combat robot, which placed third in last year's edition of Robot Wars. One of the aims of Team Ares was to achieve a high-power drive, which they managed to achieve through two 18-volt motors. These motors were disassembled from two electric drillers. To make this power usable and also to avoid damages to the motor, a small gearbox was used to drive down the power. One of the few components that they had to buy was the controller Sabertooth 2x25 controller, which is the processing unit of the robot. Basically, the receiver, which is connected to the controller, receives the radio frequency signals, which in turn converts them into electric pulses that finally drives the robot and actuates the weapon. The power source was composed of three 6-volt lead-acid batteries. They opted for these type of batteries because they are relatively cheap compared to lithium-ion batteries, although they are heavier, but they are also reliable. The main parts of the weapon, such as the camshaft and the weapon itself, were either manufactured by themselves or were found from a scrapyard.
The whole process starts by using the remote, which sends the radio signal to the receiver over here. The signals are then processed in the controller, which is the brain of our robot, the processing unit. The controller is then powered by means of the three 6-volt batteries, which can be switched on and off by means of the switch over here. The two electrical motors are also powered by means of the three 6-volt batteries, which receive the converted and modified signals from the controller, which causes the robot to move accordingly. Last but not least is the compartment that contains the weapon, which has its own controller. In this mechanism, a DC motor rotates a camshaft by means of a transmission chain supported by two bearings. The rotation of the camshafts converts the rotary motion into linear motion, causing the drill bit to move back and forth at very high speeds. In this mechanism, a DC motor rotates a camshaft by means of a transmission chain supported by two bearings, which can be found on the side of the compartment. The rotation of the camshafts converts the rotary motion into linear motion that causes the drill bit to move back and forth at very high speeds. Kristin and I took turns when driving the robot, both during the challenges such as the tug of war and also during the robot wars.
In itself, this helped us to be more creative and to actually create a more personal robot, since we had to fabricate the parts ourselves. Such as, for example, we had to bend and drill parts of the weapon in order to be able to use them in the robot. Still, we managed to place third.
One of our major drawbacks was the relatively high clearance between the terrain and the robot. In fact, when we were competing against robots such as Neo and Liftoff, they easily got under our robot and flipped us over.
One of the strengths of the robot is its weapon, and the main weapon was driven using a DC motor which rotates a camshaft using a toothed belt. This camshaft was used to convert rotational motion into linear motion, which then moves a pointed rod back and forth at very high speeds. In this way, this would cause severe damage at the point of impact on other robots.
The building of the robot helped us to gain practical knowledge in various fields, mainly in the design process, that is the configuration of the major compartments, the setup of the electronics, and also in the metal sheet fabrication.
On the whole, this was a very positive experience from which we have learned a lot. We would really encourage students to participate in such events since it is something you would surely cherish.